Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Burke Brigade. I'm Matthew Burke.
And I'm Jennifer Burke.
And we are the Burke Brigade, brought to you by the Liberty Daily,
Your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Please visit the Liberty Daily for all of your important news that matters in this great country. Especially if you love the Constitution, love God, love America, hate tyranny,
hate communists,
hate commies, willing to hear the truth as it is. We know you'll love the Liberty Daily. Okay, starting from the top here. Today was 9/11. The anniversary, it's been 16 years since September 11th, 2001, that horrific moment when America was attacked over
on our soil.
On our soil. In the biggest city in America, New York City, and the Twin Towers were shot down by radical Islamic terrorists. And never forget, I was driving our daughter to school in the morning, and she was mad at me because I wouldn't change the radio. And they were announcing it on the radio as I was driving. And I thought it was like one of these satire theaters or something. I'm like, this can't be real. This can't be real. And the whole time I'm like, this can't be real. This has got to be some kind of sick and sordid satire, right?
Right.
And then we get home and, I turn on the TV, or I get home because I dropped her off, and found out it was actually real. It was absolutely horrific and terrible. And it was committed by radical Islamic terrorists.
Yeah, and I remember I was on my way to work, to school. I was teaching at the time, and I was listening to the Christian radio station, and the DJs were talking about what happened. I mean, when the plane hit, they were talking about what happened, and they were thinking, "Oh, this has to be some kind of accident. I mean, this has to be some kind of accident." And just when I made the last left turn to get to my school, at a couple blocks to go, all of a sudden, the second plane hit. And the DJs then knew, they were like, this was no accident. So I rushed out of my car and went to the teacher next door to her room because she had a television cart. And we were just standing there holding each other, crying, watching that aftermath. And just absolutely, absolutely horrible. And to think about the people who jumped from the window, who jumped up 30 floors up, 40, however far up they were, so that they wouldn't burn to death.
They'd rather die that way.
Or die from suffocation and smoke.
Unreal.
They'd rather die that way. And let's not forget, it's the 16th anniversary of 9/11, World Trade Center, United Flight 93. Remember the plane that also hit the Pentagon? Thank goodness it wasn't as bad as the Muslim terrorists attempted to have it be. But it's also the 5th anniversary since the attack on Benghazi. And that, even though it was in Benghazi, Libya, due to where the attack happened, that is considered to be American soil,
right,
as well.
Right.
And again, by radical Muslim Islamic terrorists.
Okay, and we're going to talk about Benghazi too. But let's do a 2016 campaign flashback that's related. Here's President Trump.
Then candidate Trump.
During a debate with Crooked Hillary. And the topic, there's some plant in the audience, of course, bringing up Islamophobe, which is a word created by leftists and by Muslims to silence you for criticizing their radical religion. And here's what President Trump said to the lady. We'll just play this. It's pretty short here.
There are 3.3 million Muslims in the United States, and I'm one of them. You've mentioned working with Muslim nations, but with Islamophobia on the rise, how will you help people like me deal with the consequences of being labeled as a threat to the country after the election is over?
Now, this is so from the heart that she's got the question written out. It was probably handed to her by CNN or Hillary
right.
or Donna Brazile, who was working for CNN. Was the number 2 person at the DNC at the time. Just looks totally staged.
Mr. Trump, you're first.
Well, you're right about Islamophobia, and that's a shame. But one thing we have to...
Actually, she's not right about that.
Right? What's on the rise is discrimination.
People getting killed by Islamists.
And discrimination against Jews.
Right. And Christians.
Is we have to make sure that, because there is a problem. I mean, whether we like it or not, and we can be very politically correct, but whether we like it or not, there is a problem. And we have to be sure that Muslims come in and report when they see something going on. When they see hatred going on, they have to report it. As an example, in San Bernardino, many people saw the bombs all over the apartment of the 2 people that killed 14 and wounded many, many people. Horribly wounded. They'll never be the same. Muslims have to report the problems when they see them. And, you know...
What do you think they're not?
I don't know.
What do you think they're not? Huh?
Why do you think they're not?
I'm not going to say. I will say, polls show that a very disturbing number of Muslims, that while they may not want to actively participate in terrorism, they support the goals of the jihadists. That is just statistical fact. We'll call it science. And just in the same way that not everybody joins the U.S. military, but yet cheer the military on and support the military's goals of protecting America, this is also true in the Muslim community. So you're not going to get a lot of reporting, I'm afraid. That's very naive.
Well, there's always a reason for everything. If they don't do that, it's a very difficult situation for our country. Because you look at Orlando, and you look at San Bernardino, and you look at the World Trade Center, go outside, you look at Paris, look at that horrible... These are radical Islamic terrorists. And she won't even mention the word, and nor will President Obama. He won't use the term radical Islamic terrorism. Now, to solve a problem, you have to be able to state what the problem is, or at least say the name. She won't say the name, and President Obama won't say the name, but the name is there. It's radical Islamic terror. And before you solve it, you have to say the...
You have to say the name. Okay, but today, the Trump administration, and this is via Breitbart, not exactly an enemy of the president. You know, they've been in the tank for President Trump and will continue. And this is from Breitbart. On the 16th anniversary of the September 11th, 2001 Islamic terrorist attacks, President Donald Trump did not mention the terms radical Islam or Islamic terrorism during a commemoration ceremony at the Pentagon. Neither did, now this is just me summarizing here, neither did speeches by Vice President Mike Pence, who knows better, Defense Secretary James Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, who I would like to think knows better, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who I know knows better. And Trump campaigned at literally every campaign rally during the campaign, then candidate Trump, on saying the words radical Islamic terrorism. Isn't that right?
Yep.
And it's because you can't defeat an enemy if you can't identify their name.
What did we say about Trump during the campaign? Did he really mean what he was saying, or was he just saying the words he thought he needed to say?
In order to get elected.
Wonder, since his very first September 11th anniversary, he pulls a Barack Obama and doesn't say the words radical Islamic terrorism.
And it's because political correctness. Political correctness kills. He ran on crushing political correctness. That was something that resonated. I don't know who told him to run on that, whether it was Steve Bannon or who it was, but somewhere he got the idea that was a winning message. Because regular, everyday Americans are sick of political correctness.
Yep, and Trump was supposedly the, I don't know if kryptonite is the right analogy, but, he was supposedly the most anti-politically correct candidate that there was. Well, obviously he was just,
changed.
Days after Nancy Pelosi tells him what to tweet, days after getting in bed with Chuck U. Schumer and Santan Botox Nan, he holds a 9/11 commemorative ceremony and doesn't say radical Islamic terrorism.
So, instead, terms were used like it says here in Breitbart. Title of the story is Trump Pence Mattis session fail to name radical Islamic terrorism. Instead, they're using, more vague terms. Like here's Mattis, quote, maniacs disguised in false religious garb. No, they're actually
saying, just like Obama and
following Islam, they're following the parts in the Quran that teach to kill the infidel, that which are Jews, Christians, or non-believers. They are actually following out their religion. They're not insane at all. I mean, they're evil, but they're following an evil religion. Sorry. There's tons of scriptures. You can go to I think there's a website, religionofpeace.com, and it's got them all outlined right there for everybody to look at. And you can see why they teach this, quote-unquote hateful ideology, because that is the ideology.
Right.
Jesus said, turn the other cheek. These guys, you kill the non-believer in Islam. So, these guys, Trump, Sessions, Pence, Mattis, they were calling them extremists. I mean, who's that sound like?
Barack Obama.
Hillary Sounds like Barack Obama. Maybe Eric Holder. No, maybe John Kerry.
Janet Napolitano.
This is...
wait a minute. She called Tea Parties extremists. and then stripped Muslims from anything having to do with terrorism.
Speaking of, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I think that's really shameful. I mean, Trump was elected not to be politically correct. Now, Breitbart has a theory, and it's probably one that's fairly well grounded, that H.R. McMaster, General H.R. McMaster, is the one who is leading the charge here, and he has always been soft-pedaling terrorism from the standpoint of political correctness. He has always been against the phrase radical Islamic terrorists. How Islam is the religion of peace and they're just a few nutballs. There's millions of these nutballs. It's not a handful like the Westboro Baptist Church.
Remember that video that Ben Shapiro did?
Kooks out of a religion of 3
Well, they aren't even associated with the Baptist Church.
No.
They just have that in their name.
Right.
Remember that video Ben Shapiro did a couple of years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the percentage of Muslims around the country, and around the world, had it broken down by country, who supported jihad in the name of Allah.
Right. Violent jihad. Just like this. So let's see here if I can find it. Here's some quotes from H.R. McMaster, where they're quoting him. The president will call it whatever he wants to call it, Islamic terrorism. But I think it's important that whatever we call it, we recognize that, the extremists are not religious people. Are you kidding me? He goes, and in fact, these enemies of all civilizations, they want to do, what they want to do is cloak their criminal behavior under this false idea of some kind of religious war. You useful idiot. I mean, I'm sorry to disrespect the general, but this type of thinking deserves to be condemned.
The last week, how is it any different than if we would have had Hillary Clinton in office? I don't see how it's any different.
It's not. You'd have political correctness. You would have people soft-pedaling 9/11, calling the Islamic terrorists extremists in a religion that's otherwise peaceful.
And before anyone says, well, I mean, look what Trump did with DACA. Yeah, he sent Jeff Sessions out to say DACA was ending, and then he threw Sessions under the bus a couple hours later on Twitter, and then got in bed with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi.
Right. And, yeah, it's like, what's he talking about? They're not religious. They're not criminals. I mean, that's the way Obama and Eric Holder and John Kerry like to treat terrorists. Like, they somehow got a traffic ticket or broke into a 7-Eleven or something. They're just criminals. If they're just criminals, why do they always say Allahu Akbar every time they do this kind of thing?
Right.
Why is that?
It makes you wonder if Trump would have been president during the time of the attack on Fort Hood by the Muslim terrorists who screamed Allahu Akbar, after which Obama classified as workplace violence. Would Trump have done the same thing as Obama?
I don't know. Sounds like you wouldn't have called him a radical Islamic terrorist.
And this
It'd be one thing if he did campaign on
this. This from the man who talked about witnessing Muslims in New York celebrate after the planes flew into the World Trade Center. Now, today, he does not utter the words radical Islamic terrorism.
And the rest of his cabinet doesn't either.
So obviously there was instructions not to. And shame on Mike Pence.
Yeah, he knows better.
Shame on all of them, especially Mike Pence.
Yeah, he knows better. Sessions knows better.
Sessions spoke and didn't say it?
Yes.
Deballed, every single one of them.
Yeah, they've all been neutered somehow. By the swamp.
Yeah, they got swallowed. You know what? Swamp. Here's the thing. I think Trump went to D.C. and talked about draining the swamp, but I think what really happened is that he discovered it was actually, what's it called? When it swallows you up,
Just come up with another word. He was too overwhelmed by it, and so he decided to join him. Can't beat him, join him.
Sure, that. And now when I think of it, I'll say it.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Speaking of terrorism, as Jennifer said just a little bit ago, it's also the 5-year anniversary of Benghazi, another terrorist event that happened on September 11th, 2012, which was blamed on a YouTube video. Was it not?
It was.
Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama stood on the graves of the 4 Americans that lost their lives because the U.S. government refused multiple requests via the Secretary of State, who was Hillary Clinton, her quote-unquote great friend, the ambassador to Libya at the time, Christopher, what was his name? The ambassador to Libya, who she called like her great friend.
Christopher Stevens.
Yeah, Stevens.
Who didn't have her, he was her great friend. He didn't even have her cell phone number. Now,
yeah, such a great friend. My good friends have my cell phone.
Some actors, leftist actors had her cell phone number, but he didn't.
Right.
And she wouldn't return his messages.
So since we're commemorating 9/11, I think it's very proper and important to find out, to remember, and never forget. We never forget radical Islamic terrorism, and we never forget the slime balls, the political slime balls that bent over backwards to blame this on the First Amendment, on free speech, and to blame it on a video that she knew at the time, emails to her own daughter,
right,
proved that she knew that this was an outright damnable lie. Let's listen to this deplorable person.
I also want to take a moment to address the video circulating on the internet that has led to these protests in a number of countries. Let me state very clearly, and I hope it is obvious, that the United States government had absolutely nothing to do with this video. We absolutely reject its content and message.
So that's all I'm going to play of this. She was so busy condemning this video that no one had seen. It was totally obscure. No one over in the Middle East had seen it, but yet she's condemning that. No, notice she doesn't condemn the terrorists. Right. They're okay. She won't even call them terrorists. What she wants to do is blame it on the First Amendment. So then what they want to do, they received too much blowback. They couldn't do it, thanks to people mostly in the Tea Party. They wanted to use this as a way to please their Muslim overlords and silence any criticism of Islam. See, you can't criticize Islam.
And that's what's happening now.
Yeah, you can't criticize.
That's exactly what's happening now with their buddies at YouTube, Google, and Facebook. Now, and didn't she claim during the campaign that she never blamed a video?
Yeah, she outright lied about it.
Yeah, she's
on video.
She's caught on camera numerous times blaming the video.
But she knows her.
And then they imprisoned the man who made the video that no one had ever seen for more than a year. Left didn't seem to have a problem with that.
Remember, she told the father of one of the victims. We're going to get that guy who did that video.
Right, and then she denied it.
Don't you worry, sir.
Then she denied it. You know, if all these media outlets that were responsible for the debates were worth a damn, they would have played a video of her blaming the video, and then after she said she never did and had her answer for that. I remembered the word I was searching for. Trump got, because we're talking about Hillary, and really, last week especially has been no different than if Hillary would have been in office, with DACA throwing Jeff Sessions under the bus about it, and then not saying radical Islamic terrorism. It's almost like Trump got to D.C. with a promise to drain the swamp, only to find out that the swamp is like quicksand and he got sucked up by it all.
Either that or he got cucked.
Either that or he was a Democrat plant meant to destroy the Republican Party.
We're going to see how this goes. Speaking of deplorable, here's Hillary over the weekend in an interview with CBS's Jane Pauley. Remember when she apologized for her deplorables comment? Her basket of deplorables?
Right. Remember that one woman who had been a Bernie supporter who actually ended up voting for Trump because Hillary calling Trump supporters, who the woman recognized were just hardworking men and women, when Hillary called them deplorables, the woman was so, and it was a black woman, was so disgusted by it. She said, I cannot vote for her for calling, a lot of the people supporting Trump were union members, but just everyday Americans deplorable.
Right. So now that the election's over and she lost, she's changing her tune.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Finger in the wind.
Filling a home
Shocker.
is a huge hassle. I went to opendoor.com, typed in my address. In a matter of hours, we've
done a better job of demonstrating. I get it. There were some memorable verbal gaffes, too. You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Why do you think that word deplorable had been circulating in your mind?
Well, I thought Trump was behaving in a deplorable manner. I thought a lot of his appeals to voters were deplorable. I thought his behavior, as we saw on the Access Hollywood tape, was deplorable. And there were a large number of people who didn't care. It did not matter to them. And he turned out to be a very effective reality TV star in our presidential campaign.
But yet he beat you.
Hillary. Lest you forget, you want to talk about, some of the things that he did you saw as deplorable? And in fact, if you've seen that movie 13 Hours, it was the men that were on the ground there who survived were actually consultants on that movie. Not only would you not approve protection when they were begging for it.
For your friend.
Not only that, for your supposed friend. But after they miraculously made it out, the United States government refused to pay for a plane to get them out of the country. And then after that, you let that area sit unguarded.
So all the evidence
was ruined by people going in there, and then you lied about it. You lied about it to the American people. You lied about it to the people's families. You continue to lie about it. You, Hillary Clinton, are the deplorable one. You lied. You lied about your husband's victims, women who were victimized, raped, sexually harassed, sexually intimidated by your husband who you stood by because you want power and control, and Trump's the deplorable one? The things that your husband did, I'm sorry, Trump might have said that on the tape. Your husband, given his MO, likely did it in real life.
Not likely did he. Definitely did it. Unless, of course, you're not supposed to believe the women.
Took advantage of a 21-year-old intern.
Right.
On her knees in
Most
the
powerful
Oval
man
Office.
in the world.
And what's your response? Calling them nuts and sluts and crazy. You, Hillary Clinton, are the deplorable one. Shame on you. And shame on all these so-called feminists fighting for women's rights. We must fight for our rights. For supporting this. I almost said it. I probably shouldn't have. Biatch.
I think you should have. Okay, so Jane Pauley is trying to give her an off-ramp here to her credit, I guess. And Hillary is not smart enough to do it.
Said basket of deplorables you energized.
No, but they were already energized.
But you offended some people who didn't personally feel deplorable at all.
I don't buy that. I'm sorry I gave him a political gift of any kind.
That was a gift.
But I don't think that was determinative.
Really?
Determinative.
Really?
Actually, it was determinative.
Spoken like a true elitist, Hillary. Spoken like a true... You know what, Hillary?
What happened to the apology?
Those basket of deplorables to which you wanted to wear... And Matthew and I were not Trump supporters. We were Cruz supporters. But we were disgusted when she called, everybody. Basically, she was saying half of all the people voting for Trump were deplorable. Well, you know what, Hillary? You single-handedly lost... Well, you and Barack Obama lost a lot of the people who had been the Democrat base. And you know what? You refused to go to the Rust Belt. You tried to get pictures of yourself. Remember the whole Chipotle incident with her sunglasses on so she wouldn't be noticed? Lord. She didn't want to, so she probably felt like she needed a shower being around the unwashed masses as she probably sees the regular people. You were too busy partying with Jay-Z and Beyonce and your disgusting friends, Lena Dunham and all these other Hollywood elitists. You were too busy partying with them to bother mixing it up with the regular folks across America. And don't think that didn't go unnoticed. That's why you lost areas that Democrats have typically won, because you're a horrible, self-centered, egotistical, narcissistic biatch of a candidate.
Tell us how you really feel, honey, would you? So, I take it's a no. You're not a Hillary fan?
No.
Oh my gosh. But there was good news in that interview. I'm not going to play the clip because, quite honestly, her voice is like fingernails on a chalkboard. But she did say that she is no longer going to be a candidate for any political office. Can I get applause? That is a great day in America. That's the good news. The bad news, though, she said she is going to be still involved in politics. Why? Well, she didn't say this, but it's because the money's too good.
Yes.
She still wants to get her speaking fees.
Yep.
She still wants to run these phony
foundations that she
packs.
can use to pay for. Maybe she'll raise more money to pay for her granddaughter's wedding, in 20 years, since her foundation paid for Chelsea's wedding.
Oh my gosh.
What about the... Oh, I got to throw this in. I know it's not on the list, but...
Doesn't matter.
What about the... Hillary was so arrogant. She so knew. The reason she didn't go to the Rust Belt, the reason she focused on California and New York and hobnobbing, she was giving, as she's attacking Trump for not caring about the little guy, she's focusing on doing fundraisers for people who are paying $32,000 a plate to go hear her speak. Right? So, she was so confident she was going to win. She felt like she didn't need to mix it up. Those peons, they're going to vote for me anyway. She was so arrogant. She bought a house in Chappaqua next to the house that she and Bill have among their, I don't know how many houses. And at the time it was spun, and this is true elitist fashion, at the time it was spun that they were buying a house so Chelsea can have a weekend retreat. Chelsea Clinton, who doesn't try to care about money, but she just couldn't do it. Her mommy supposedly bought her a house so she could have a weekend retreat, a $1.8 million house, something like that. What it turns out, she bought the house thinking she would win so it could be a place for some of her staff to stay.
Yeah,
that's how arrogant she is.
She doesn't have to worry about money because she doesn't have to worry about money. If she actually had to go out into real life and get a real job,
she wouldn't,
like the rest of us do. She wouldn't. She would worry about money because there's no free lunch out there unless you're sucking on the government.
Unless your last name is Clinton,
and then of course,
and then you're
voting
painted
Democrat,
and then you're painted. You're painted as a champion for women's rights,
even and the little guy.
Even though you called them nuts and sluts and bimbos, and your husband has raped his way across the country. And you're for the little guy while you're giving $32,000 a plate speeches, but don't want to shake people's hands. And remember, they tried to clean it up after that. She had sunglasses on at Chipotle because she didn't want to actually talk to anybody, and they tried to stage these Hillary at cafes talking to people around the country,
and it
turned out these people were Democrat staffers.
Plants.
Yep.
That wouldn't ask her anything inconvenient.
No, some of them were actually Democrat staffers.
Right. But I mean, they did that because a regular citizen, especially, in some small town, America, is going to be asking her something she didn't want to answer.
Right.
Why did you lie about the video in Benghazi, Hillary? Hey, Hillary, how do you freaking sleep at night? Hey, Hillary, how do you sleep at night when you're using your foundation as an ATM machine?
How do you sleep at night when you raise money for people in Haiti who lost everything due to an earthquake, and what the money actually went for was to line your pockets and your friend's pocket? By the way, your friend was already in prison, but you helped him earn another cool $10 million.
Right. How do you sleep at night, Hillary, saying in one breath, oh, you have to believe women victims of sexual assault, but then you don't believe the multiple women that were victims of your husband's sexual assault.
Right.
How do you sleep at night?
Remember when that young
she didn't want to be asked that.
When that one young woman asked her that question, and she chuckled and said, until they're proven a reason not to be believed or something. I mean, just disgusting.
When there's like 10 or 20 of them, Hillary, and one of them
maybe
has got
that's
pictures
why her body
bruises.
got so gross as she got older. It was because she's just a disgusting human being. So not that she ever had a great body, but
I haven't really checked out her body.
You can tell in those pantsuits, there ain't much to look at.
No, there's actually quite a bit.
Might be too much to look at.
Okay, are you ready for your Drain the Swamp update?
Yes.
So the national debt for the first time in American history reached $20 trillion for this. I'm not blaming President Trump for this. He just got in office. But I will blame him for seemingly not doing a whole hell of a lot to do it by just, cutting that deal with the enemy, Pelosi and Schumer, to raise the debt ceiling. But it hit the 20 trillion mark for the first time. And just a little bit of nostalgia here. 10 years ago, just 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
I mean, the country's over 200 years old. 10 years ago, it was at 9.
$9 trillion, which was a lot. And everybody thought it was a lot. The media was attacking George Bush over it, I'm sure.
20 years ago, it was 5.4 trillion. Now, everybody's going to say, well, you got to blame Obama for that. You know what? I don't blame Obama. You know why?
He doesn't hold the purse
stand
strings.
Obama didn't hold the purse strings. You know who held the purse strings for the majority of that time? Republicans.
Right, but they
who held the purse strings for the majority of the time under George W. Bush? Republicans. It's all spending bills begin in the House of Representatives.
But when they do nothing, seriously, this is why so many people under Obama figured, they really think that the way our government works is Obama said what he wanted, and Congress just does it. We pay these people, $176,000 a year, many of whom are millionaires and don't need it, who became millionaires after supposedly being a public servant for their whole lives. Yeah, right. We pay them $176 a year just to be a rubber stamp.
Right. So you have what I call the Surrender Caucus leaders, rhinos, at the time John Boehner, but now Paul Ryan and Obama's Mitch. McConnell, the establishment rhinos, writing the checks. So, yeah, you could say Obama ran up the national debt, but actually, I mean, you can't. Would he have maybe spent more than they would have? Maybe, but it's no excuse.
Yeah,
I mean, we always talk
nothing.
about this.
They did absolutely nothing to stop
You got
them.
big government party number one, big government party number two.
It's like they're all on the Saul Alinsky train.
Yep.
Run the government. I mean,
it's a swamp. It's a swamp. That's why that resonated.
It's quicksand.
Yep. And in the interview that Steve Bannon had on 60 Minutes, he said that McConnell told Team Trump in the White House, quit saying you're going to drain the swamp. Stop that talk. Why? Because
he is the swamp.
He is a swamp creature. He is the poster boy.
Call him.
He's a poster boy for the swamp. He is the swamp. You know, and one thing that Bannon said, he said several good things. He said a few things I didn't agree with either, but one thing he said that, you know, one of the biggest mistakes was the Trump administration decided, perhaps it was, you know, his liberal Democrat daughter or his liberal Democrat globalist son-in-law, but somebody convinced him to embrace the swamp. And that's why you had Reince Priebus in there. Right. That's why you had Sean Spicer in there.
Who said this? Bannon?
Bannon.
Either someone convinced him to drain the swamp, or
he was in the swamp already.
Was planning on, you know, being part of the swamp, and he was just saying what he felt he needed to say to be elected. I mean, this was our concern about Donald Trump throughout the entire primary, was that he was unprincipled. He was not principled. He did not stand on principle. He was, you know, just back and forth on too many issues through the years. We were like, what is the Donald Trump presidency going to look like?
Right.
And when he became president, we hope for the best.
Right.
And our stance
still hope for the best. Still root for him.
And our stance is, when you do things that are constitutional, that are good for the country, we'll applaud you. If you don't, you need to be called out. You Trump supporters who are making excuses for him, who are calling those who do not agree with Trump getting in bed with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, calling those people Democrats. You're a Democrat if you're not supporting Trump getting in bed with Nancy Pelosi.
Getting in bed with Democrats.
Yeah, getting in bed.
That makes no sense.
You're a rhino if you don't support. You know, Trump had to get in bed with them because of Mitch McConnell. Really, listen to yourselves, people. It's okay to hold your leaders accountable. That's what formed the Tea Party in the first place. And we always said the Tea Party was not about allegiance to any particular party.
Nope.
Yes, the people in the Republican Party, more so in some ways, in some instances, aligned with the Tea Party values. But
they don't live them.
They don't live them, and we called them out when they were wrong. We need to continue to do that. I don't care if the person in the Oval Office has an R next to his name.
No, the R's and the D's. What we've seen here, even in the Trump administration, which was supposed to be different, is, I mean, it pains me to say this, but it's really not a lot different than if we would have got Jeb Bush.
No. At least we know what we were getting.
I'm going to say I don't see even a establishment rhino like Jeb Bush going to bed with Pelosi and Schumer. I don't see it. Do you? I don't think he would. I'm not saying he would have been great, but, you know. Okay, here's Steve Bannon. This was my favorite part, I think, of that interview, and this is short.
Upset about it?
I was of the opinion that you should condemn both the...
He's talking about Charlottesville and Trump's comments about Charlottesville, which we think he completely got a bad rap on. I mean, he said racism is evil. Now, I know that's not complex enough for the media to understand, but Trump calling out both sides was absolutely the right thing to do. And the left is in this love affair with the America-hating communists and Antifa, and that's why they couldn't stand their little black-hooded goons getting lumped in with the white supremacists,
right?
And they're equally as bad. Okay, so that's the nature of the question here.
I was of the opinion that you should condemn both the racists and the neo-Nazis, because they're getting a free ride off. They're getting off a free ride off Donald Trump. They're getting a free ride because it's a small group, it's a vicious group. They add no value, and all they do is show up in the mainstream media, and the left-wing media makes them up as some huge part of Donald Trump's coalition.
David Duke.
David Duke shows up for every media opportunity because you guys put the county cameras.
Well, but
Charlie.
He's talking to Charlie Rose.
Charlie Rose looked like he was about to fall over. David Duke!
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like an enraged lunatic. Is he the grandfather of Antifa? Because that's how he's coming across.
Right. Certainly an apologist.
They're irrelevant.
The media does not make David Duke say what he says.
But you report it.
Applauded what the president did. That's what they...
But you give him a voice. You give him a platform. He would be irrelevant if you didn't obsess about it. Now, David Duke has also ran for office as a Democrat. Maybe they forget that point. You know, Trump has never praised David Duke or said anything
Charlie
good
Rose, have you fallen over in such outrage with Hillary Clinton and her mentor, Robert Byrd?
Yeah, how about Robert KKK Byrd?
He probably pulled the rope to string a black person up on a tree, but he was just looking for leadership experience.
Yeah.
This is how Bill Slick Willie, keep it in your pants, but I can't, Clinton, excused away his involvement.
Hillary Clinton's member.
Okay. So Hillary Clinton's mentors
is a KKK leader.
Hillary Clinton's mentors are two people she look up to, two people whose goal in life was to kill black people.
But that's
Robert
not a problem.
Byrd,
That's good.
Robert
That's
Byrd,
not a problem
who was a Klan leader back when the Klan was stringing black people up in a tree simply because they were black.
That's not a
and
problem.
Margaret Sanger, whose goal in life was to rid the world of quote-unquote human weeds because she thought black people were inferior. Where's your outrage over that, Charlie? Don't smell like a rose.
Charlie, the bloom is off the rose.
David Duke did.
David Duke, the president has condemned David Duke and what David Duke stands for.
Everybody listening to you who talks about one of the great issues in American life today.
Oh my God, look at the pearl clutching. Look at the pearl clutching.
He is ridiculous. He's
Mr. Sincerity, you know, his head is in rock kicking position while he's saying this. He's so serious, Charlie.
You should see him leaning forward, looking like the devil himself.
Look at him. He needs a couple of freaking horns.
Which is the plight of the middle class.
Pause. Okay, the middle class, really? Because contrary to what you lefties in journalism want the American people to believe,
they don't want a middle class.
The black people in the middle class did not fare very well under Barack Obama, your Lord God and Savior.
Right.
It was the rich and wealthy who did.
That's exactly right.
They also believe that there is, on your part and the president's part, not enough appreciation for some of the values also that made America great. And you don't appreciate that. And you don't appreciate the diversity.
Here we go. The God of diversity.
My God.
The God of diversity.
Obama didn't appreciate anything that made America great. He spent years dissing the founding fathers in America and apologizing for America around the world. What about that, Charlie Schmoes?
Let me just bust this narrative. This is so politically incorrect. We're probably going to be banned. But, hey, Charlie, the America was founded not on diversity. You're a liar. It was founded and made great on unity. Not diversity, not perversity, unity. You know, godly, God-fearing men and women with a common set of Judeo-Christian values that they agreed upon that would make society great as long as they adhered to them. There was no obsession with skin color. There was an obsession with unity, with unifying. And that's not something you're interested in. You're interested in maybe diversity of skin color,
right,
because that's politically correct.
Right.
But you're not interested in anything that goes against your God, Karl Marx.
Remember when some Democrat said, the Republican Party, 17 people, I know it was a lot, But it was a far more diverse field than the Democrats. The Democrats had all these old white people who supposedly,
they
Democrats
did not want to talk about that.
Yeah, but on the Republican side, they had two senators whose parents were, who had at least one parent who was from Cuba.
Right.
You had a black man. You had a woman. You had a guy of Indian descent, not Native American, but Indian.
Right.
And I know I'm leaving other people out, but the Democrats' response to that was, well, but there's no diversity of thought.
Like there is on the left.
They all believe the same thing, right? Remember when Jim Webb, your boy Jim Webb at the debate, he was the only reasonable Democrat who actually didn't think like a communist.
Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't my boy, but I would have accepted
of all the Democrat part, all the Democrat candidates,
because he's a JFK Democrat.
Exactly, he stuck out like a sore thumb because he wasn't like.
He got booted from the party.
Right, he got booted, and people after that first debate, when he was saying things, that you were like, man, he sounds more conservative than some of the Republican candidates. Some Democrats are like, what's Jim Webb doing in the Democrat Party? He don't belong in here. No, he doesn't. He doesn't, because he actually called them out on some things.
Right, and he's fiscally relatively conservative. He's not a left-wing lunatic. He doesn't hate America. He believed in a strong national defense. He, was not afraid to call out terrorists for what they are. And he's a good man. He's a good, honest man. I don't agree with him on everything.
He wasn't crotchety old crazy commie Bolshevik Byrne.
No, but you know what? He would have been not bad for the country. I don't think he would have been terrible for the country at all. Forget the initial next to his name. I mean, he wouldn't have been my first pick, but man, so much better than any other Democrat.
Democrat, definitely.
Okay. So Bannon here is going to pull down Charlie Rose's pants and spank his wrinkly ass.
Cover your eyes, folks.
Because Rose is what he's doing here. He's he's an elitist, and he's trying to pull the race card. Is basically what he's doing here.
Appreciate the respect for civil rights.
I was raised in a desegregated neighborhood. North side of Richmond is predominantly black. Okay, I went to an integrated school, a Catholic school. I served in the military. I don't need to be lectured by a bunch of limousine liberals, okay, from the Upper East Side of New York and from the Hamptons, okay, about any of this. My lived experience is that.
Boom!
It's a great point.
I don't.
And Charlie Rose, you want to talk about civil rights again? It's your party who strung black people up on the tree. It's your party, the Democrat
You're so racist.
Party,
you're racist.
Who put the hoses on black people, during the 40s, 50s, 60s. It's your party who put up the signs, whites and coloreds, making black people drink from a different faucet. That's all your party's history that you want to deny.
Right, and in response to illegals, Chuck. How many illegals have you let into your gated community?
Right.
Go.
Right.
0. Okay, that's exactly what we thought. We're going to wrap up shortly here. Why? Because I want to go watch football. That's why.
Me too.
We haven't completely boycotted the NFL.
We're focusing on good patriotic players like JJ. That's what's up.
Yeah, JJ Watt. But we have done a little bit of a soft boycott. We're not into it quite as much. Speaking of roses, the flag sitters have taken a little bit of the bloom off the rose.
Yes, and shame. You know what, NFL, you're a private entity.
Get your employees under control. Right. It's not a free speech issue. Okay. Alex Jones. Everybody knows Alex Jones.
Good night.
Let's just have a little fun here. He said today that President Trump is being drugged. He's being secretly somehow drugged. And I'm just going to play a little bit of this insanity here. Of course, this is fake news. He's pulling a New York Times or a CNN. He's got no sources other than sources.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was told this by high-level sources, and it was evident, and especially after Reagan was shot in his first year in office when he was...
Who are they? Who are the sources? Who are the sources? I mean, if this was the New York Times saying something like this, you'd want sources. But yet, you're going to quote this crap, and you've got no sources, right? Because you're pulling it out of your butt for clicks.
Acting like Trump and doing the right things, that he never really recovered. They gave him cold blood and his transfusion that causes brain damage. They slowly gave him small amounts of sedatives. It's known that most presidents end up getting drugged. Small dosages of
I just can't watch anymore.
He must not want to get his children back. Isn't it this kind of crap that cost him custody of his children?
I would think so, that a slick attorney could pull the old insanity card and gain some traction there. I can't play any more of it. But you know what? He might be onto something. I mean, that might explain Trump's going to bed with Nancy Pelosi.
That's giving him too much credit.
I mean, only drugs, I think, could do that. So maybe he's onto something.
Or revealing your true colors that are shining through.
Oh my God.
Do we see your true colors? My husband loves it when I break out in song. I think it adds a certain extra element to the show.
I'm glad you think so, dear. Okay. I just got flicked. Okay, speaking of being drugged, the deal, you gotta make a deal. Let's just make a deal. It doesn't matter what the damn deal is. We gotta make a deal.
Deal maker.
Yeah, I'm a deal maker. The deal that Trump, Pelosi, and Schumer did, guess what it funds? It funds Planned Butcherhood.
It funds the further killing and destruction and genocide of black and brown children.
Yeah, it funds
I wonder, you think CNN will run a headline story, Trump funds the genocide of black and brown children?
No. In fact, from their vantage point, they, if they were being intellectually honest, as much as they hate Trump, you would think they would be praising him for funding a baby body parts chop shop.
Right.
Because they're anti-life.
Right.
But instead, they won't be giving him credit for this, and I'm not going to give him credit because it's evil. B, I'm old enough to remember when he campaigned against it. Funding Planned Butcherhood.
What was that tweet? He talked about Republicans should defund Planned Butcherhood. He talked about it in the tweet.
As long as they kept killing babies,
concerns.
then he would do it. But of course, that again is what's the name of the movie? Gone with the Wind.
This was another one of our concerns. Trump's intense desire to be liked.
Right. And he's liked now. I mean, the media's shown him some love for the Pelosi Schumer deal, a little bit. They're shocked, they're stunned, and they just can't believe it. And of course, Pelosi, she just had an orgasm over it. And Schumer, as Mark Levin said, has not been this happy since he stopped being constipated.
Do you think that do you think that the Morning Joe will become Trump's new favorite morning show over Fox and Friends?
Well, could happen. Could absolutely happen. So we're going to end with this, but virtually all of the 2020 presidential hopefuls on the Democrat/Communist Party side have lined up behind Soviet Sanders, or who you call Bolshevik Bernie. His commie care plan, his single payer commie care plan, which is, Obamacare was a partial takeover of health care. That's not good enough now. They won't admit Obamacare's failed, but government involvement has destroyed health care. So what do they want?
More government involvement.
Go government! You do so good. Look at the post office. It does so great.
Hurts so good.
Look at Amtrak. Look how great that does.
Oh my gosh!
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mae caused the housing crisis.
Since you brought up Amtrak, I'll never forget. I rode Amtrak years and years and years ago from Houston to Las Vegas for my niece's high school graduation. And on the way back to Houston, we were just outside of San Antonio, and they informed us. They said, "Ladies and gentlemen, you may want to at the next stop." You may want to go off the train and grab something to eat because we have run out of food and we will not be able to restock the train until we get to New Orleans.
Yeah, you know what?
Now,
Private companies don't do that.
We were outside of San Antonio. By car, it's 4 hours from San Antonio to Houston. From Houston to New Orleans, it's 8 hours by car. They were going to go that far of a distance before they could restock the train. That's government working against you, actually.
That's called the government-imposed fast. Okay, that's all we have. I know you're begging for more. I know you want more Burke Brigade.
What they want more of is me...
Singing?
I think that's what it is.
It might be. But they're not going to get that tonight because we're going to say goodnight.
Are you ready for some football?
And Colin Kaepernick is still unemployed. Now, that's a great day in America.
That's a great day in America.
Look at just to divert, look at the Colts. They got crushed. Their quarterback is horrible. I'm pretty sure I could do that good. And Scott, what's his name? Tolzien, or I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter what it is because he's not going to be in there very long. But to think that they haven't picked up Colin Kaepernick, that's how big of a cancer, because obviously he's better than this guy. But
barely.
He's just not worth the trouble.
No.
And turning off half your fan base, if not more.
And destroying the NFL from within.
Right. Which, is probably what he wants. Okay, God bless you. God bless America. Thank you for watching.
Listening. And watching our faces on the screen.
I'm just trying to lose some more weight before I get on the screen. Thank you for listening to the Burke Brigade. I'm Matthew Burke.
And I'm Jennifer Burke.
We're the Burke Brigade. Brought to you by the Liberty Daily.
Your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Go to thelibertydaily.com. Good night, everybody.
God bless. God bless America.
God bless Texas. God bless Florida.
Amen.